So, of course, we'll list the people that are absent. We don't have to go through that. We know who's present. The staff that's here is, of course, you know there's been a change in directorship here at the utility department. And, Arturo has actually left employment in the city. Of course, you know Angie, you know Sheila, and you know Lauren. So the gang's all here from the utility department, I guess, is the message. Approval of minutes. So these are the minutes from September 12th. I guess, would you take a second and look at them? Were you guys provided the minutes before the meeting? No. Okay, well, that'll be
For just the agenda. I'm not sure.
Okay, and that's the procedure we'll follow in the future. They should have the minutes, so when they come, if they have any questions, they can actually call ahead of time, or they can be prepared to comment on it if they'd like. But take a second and look through them and see if they're, in your mind, representative of what happened that day. And were there any to-dos for us to do in the minutes? I looked through a few, and I thought I saw a couple. I don't know whether anybody followed through on those or not.
Where did you go, sir?
There was a couple in here. It said, let me glance through again. I thought I glanced and saw a couple that we were going to provide you some information. Oh, there was a note in, under secondary water, he's gonna ask somebody to come by and make a presentation on ASR and whatever. I don't know whether that happened or not. That's, look under the section 5, go down about 3 or 4 lines. It says, I will be asking them to come by and give a presentation of the services they provide. This will be an ongoing project. I don't know if that happened or not. I can talk to you a little bit about ASR today. I plan on doing that, but I'm I have no answer on whether that actually happened or not.
No, I don't think it did.
No.
Okay. So can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, same sign? No opposed. Let the record show. Then I'll just put in as part of the notes for this meeting. I guess I'm interested in, I don't know how you conducted the meetings in the past, but we'll provide you notes from this meeting so that you'll have those to look at before you come next time. And I guess our job will be to get to the council people that have members that are now terminated from their position here and see if they want to nominate somebody else, I guess. When you talk about a quorum, what do we consider a quorum?
It depends on the number of members appointed. If you have 9, you need 5 members to show up in order for you to hold the meeting.
Okay, but when you say a quorum, I'm struggling with this. It's, we're using a lot of formalities, but is there something that mandates that kind of stuff?
I mean, my personal opinion is that we're an advisory board only. I don't think there's any action that we take truthfully.
Yeah, as far as anything that we do is just recommendations to.
Or feedback or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, these are we're doing some formal things, but unless you're typically approving something or voting on something that has some impact or influence, I don't know how you got started on this path. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
I don't know either,
Yeah.
to be honest with
I would
you. We tried to follow, I think, generally, and I've been on a couple of other advisory committees over the years at the city, and I think generally we try to follow the Robert Rules of Order, type of thing, as best as possible. But I think from that perspective, Rick, like you're saying, is we're simply an advisory committee, so it's not like, we're not like planning and zoning that makes an official call on anything, right?
I think basically what it came down to was they formed this with the council. The council formed this, so like Ed says, that we're supposed to go back and inform our council member of, what's happening at utilities.
Sure, yeah.
That's pretty much what it boils down to.
Interesting, okay. Do they get a copy, do the council members get a copy
Yeah.
of minutes?
No.
Would that be a good thing to do?
No.
No?
I mean, I don't know. I mean, my council members never asked me for the minutes, you know, copy of the minutes. Generally, I speak to him every, few months unless he calls about something, and, I give him a little status update. Yeah, we talked about, like some of the things we've been talking about is that, Amistad, plan, secondary water plan, working with, other counties. But that's all I've kind of been giving him updates on, my council person. But I don't believe they formally get minutes necessarily. Would it hurt? Probably not. Would they have time to look at it? Probably not. As one of,
How often do you meet typically?
this
Once a month.
organization was this committee is once a month.
Okay.
We're trying to schedule this once a month. I know this is probably, in my opinion, one of the more organized committees that I have other friends in other committees that say they haven't met in months, other city committees, right? So, where the once a month came from, I'm not sure if it's by ordinance
It's
or
by
by rule or, so.
Okay. You guys have any expectations of what you'd like to hear or know from me? Or the director, I guess is a better way to say it.
I think originally before you coming in and before, the things that went on the last few months, our goal was just, my personal goal was, my council member, which is Dr. King of District 6, secondary water source, and making sure we were progressing with communications and trying to find things like that, He was, that was something he asked me to make sure we were still looking at. I know he was a little more involved personally, if I'm not mistaken. I think he was involved with trying to help organize some of those meetings with Eagle Pass and Dory. I may be wrong, Angie, but I thought he was kind of trying to help that organization, So that was one thing that we had been discussing, and that was something that we wanted to see progressing over the last few months, for sure.
Okay.
Um,
What I'm looking for is, I wanna be responsive to, if your councilman said, hey, find out what Buzz thinks about whether the Yankees should have won the World Series. Whatever. You follow what I'm saying?
I think my councilman just wants to know if the utilities department has a plan. Like, are they talking about moving forward? Like, are they progressing? Like, where are we at with, his big thing is the distribution lines in his district, because we're over there way in the south.
Yeah, and I say the secondary water source because again, I didn't attend the last meeting, but, I'm sure now, I think every council person is probably wanting to see what, which way things are gonna go with.
Yeah, but the way they get it, like, right away, it's like, oh, everything's for the north, oh, nothing for the south, for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
poor people, they start with that thing,
Yeah.
so he's very like.
Where's the poor people at here?
The south.
I'm just trying.
But the council person that I talked to, she's mostly concerned with, obviously, there's a water master plan, right? And, where's that process? Is it still in draft format? Has it been adopted? And then
Never saw it.
that's, yeah.
They never produced it.
And so there's that issue, and then also the issue related back to how does that water master plan deal with, this whole issue with the inner city and old lines and, all that infrastructure, that aging infrastructure that needs to be looked at.
Okay, great.
I approached Mayor Trevino, I believe it was either January or February 2022. It could have been 2023. I'm not too sure what it is, but it was the dates, to be a little more precise, it was the dates where the city of Laredo taxpayer was notified to come and meet the last 3 I guess, prospects that were trying to become the new city manager
Okay.
for the city of Laredo, so I'm not sure exactly what it is, but anyway. When I attended that meeting, which was held at the Laredo Public Library, I had around 5 minutes FaceTime with the mayor, and I made a proposal, or a verbal proposal, to be more exact, to the mayor on how we can overhaul our water infrastructure without raising taxes to the, and it's an idea that I have been thinking about for a while. It's not a shoot from the hip, off the wall type of idea proposal. And it's not reinventing the wheel either. So I shared with the mayor my proposal on how we could possibly get this done. He didn't say he was gonna do it, but I guess he was impressed with my, my presentation or the way I shared my ideas, and he said, you know what, he asked me if I would ever wanna be on the city utilities advisory committee, and I said, sure. And I've been here for, I guess, 2 years now.
Did you get a
My
chance,
objective was to see, yes, go ahead.
did you get a chance to share that with the group?
I'm not at liberty to share it, alright, because,
Well, first of all,
my idea is, well, go ahead.
Go ahead. My question is, typically, you never raise taxes to fix the utility department. It's an enterprise fund, you raise rates to do that, right? I mean, typically, you shouldn't be, it shouldn't affect your taxes,
Yeah, I
right?
use both of those terms.
Interchangeably?
I use both of those terms when I spoke with the mayor, rates and taxes,
Okay.
right? It's my proposal, just, I don't wanna let the cat out of the bag because, I feel my idea could be used by an aspiring candidate as their platform and
We need for a mayor or something?
or city council, mayor, state representative, state senator, or something like that.
Okay.
You know, I just, I've been thrown under the bus several times to learn that, you know what, keep your ideas to yourself, and if you can't share them with anybody, take them to the grave.
Okay.
Let somebody else come up with
I
it.
just, okay, that's fine.
But anyway, the
didn't
mayor
mention
told me
doing
you wanna be on the city utilities advisory committee, yeah, sure, but that was just my proposal on how to improve the water structure, that's just one thing. But my objective as a civil actor is to see that all, the norms or the requirements of every municipality that's a Laredo is a home municipality to adhere to the regulations of the Texas Commission for Environmental Quality and the EPA.
Okay.
To make it long story short.
Okay, so your focus is on regulation and compliance.
That's correct. And, to make, I'll do that a little more to there, well, we dropped the ball a little bit last month, but, I guess the city of Laredo took, necessary steps to ensure that those boil water notices are kept in. Nevertheless, to finish my proposal, I guess the city leadership took the step to go, to ask for bonds for that. So,
For,
to obtain funding to fix the water infrastructure. Not all of it, just part of it, but anyway, if they opt to that, you know, I have minor say-so as to how they're gonna go.
Can I add?
I could just be a little bit, yes, I could just be a little bit of a, let me say, wording on the ear of the mayor, but I won't have the last word. Somebody else will. Please.
We didn't go and sell bonds because of the boil water notice. We had already sold the bond prior to the boil water notice. So what you were being presented in council was a list of projects that were going to be funded with the bond proceeds that were already in progress way before.
Way before I
Way
spoke to the
be-
mayor.
No, way before this boil water notice happened. We sell bonds we're selling bonds every 2 years. So every 2 years, we look at the CIP, which is a capital improvement project listing, and determine what projects need to be done, and that's how we go and sell the bonds for both water and sewer. But we didn't just recently sell a bond because of the boil water notice. That one was already in motion. So the proceeds, we've already received them, and it's months in the process. It takes months to get those monies. It's not something that happened because of the boil water. Now, does the mayor want us to go and seek funding? Yes, he does. We're looking to see where can we get some grants, because anything other than a grant is going to affect my debt capacity, which we don't have at the moment. So, do we have money to fix water lines right now? Yes, we do. We always budget for replacing aging infrastructure. It's just now putting the plan in place.
It sounds to me that maybe a good approach, and I'm happy to do this for the next meeting, because my sense is I'll still be here, but why don't we give you a little bit of a, I don't wanna call it an orientation, but maybe we ought to talk about how utilities work, how we're funded. And I can tie in a lot of the questions you're asking, because quite frankly, I've told our staff here, and I don't know if you know me from a hole in the wall, and that's really not important, but I made a presentation to council last Monday. Some of you may have seen it, some of you didn't. If you didn't, I'll be glad to get you a copy, but, I mean, the message is very clear to me, and as you know, I was the utility director in Arlington, and I did work in Amarillo, and I still do some work for them, and of course now I'm here in Laredo, so I know a little bit about Texas, just enough, but you know, to me it's not about budgeting, it's about execution. It's not about having enough money, it's about getting projects done with the money you're given, right? And so we're talking to our staff a lot about that. And so maybe to clear up some of this stuff, if there's a question on how this whole thing works, we'll put together a little presentation and have that available for you. Okay, I mean and we're gonna have some new members, it looks like. So maybe
Well, it
that's
takes
good.
a while to appoint, because we've asked some council members to appoint for a while, and they just don't get to it.
I think one of the,
But we'll try to, I mean, we can only request, I can't push them
Well,
to.
Angie, we don't need to get into that discussion, but, okay.
one of the problems I think we've had for a long time is they don't want, the rates that we charge are really low here in Laredo compared to other cities. And I think we've done studies, the problem is, it's not cool to be that guy to raise the rates. Nobody wants that. You know, and then they complain about, why are you gonna raise the rates and the water's crap, and you know, you get into all that. But in order for things to get done, as an enterprise fund, we need to make money. And if we're below average on what we're charging for water, I know, I'm not talking about the sewage part, I'm just talking about the water rates. They're low, they're real low, and I think, I know Sheila's here, and we were in this, the drought thing, right? So you're making people hold back, and then it's kind of contradictory when we're in the water business. We're trying to sell water. That's where it gets a little, but I think.
Could we put this in something?
Yeah.
I'll give you the exhibit of the week that'll address exactly what you're talking about.
I just always felt that, everybody complains, they don't wanna, they scream about the water rates, and a big part of that is they get one bill. And they look at the bill, and you got garbage, you got water, you got sewage, you got all that, and they're like, oh my God, this is
The
crazy.
first thing I said to my staff was, it's not the water bill, it's city services bill, and we ought to change the title of it. I'm serious, words mean something.
Because
The water bill's only about 30% of it, 28% of it.
That's correct.
of the
Always
city
reminds
services
you
bill.
of.
Would you guys, can I get a motion? I'm teasing, but you know what I'm saying.
to advise.
Yes.
No, I mean, you are correct, there's several things, there are other city services that are listed on your water bill. So it's not
You
only
mean
water.
city services bill?
It wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it wouldn't be a bad name for it, a bad change of name or.
We
But
got to the
certainly, yeah,
point that
people
we're
need to
not
Everyone
invited.
considers that, they don't call it, oh, I got the garbage bill,
Yes,
I got the water bill.
About the water.
Right.
And so they assume
Right.
it's all.
they're paying.
Well, it says the water bill on the water bill.
Yeah.
But it's got trash and storm and sewer and,
So when,
Recycling, right?
I don't know what else. is
when
on
we
it.
would talk about, hey, you know what, we gotta raise your rates now, we're like we're way below,
Dark ages.
yes. We would freak out. And I'm not saying that that's the only thing, but that's one thing, like,
Sure.
nobody wants to hear it, especially, you know, you bring that up now, everybody's gonna be like, you want me to pay more? Well, you know what, there's a lot of stuff that needs to get fixed.
Yeah.
Now, 2 council meetings ago, I did a presentation because of the boil water credit. We put a sample bill in there, and we put the percentages of of a bill that says, this is garbage, this is water, this is sewer, and these are all your other charges, which are your NPDS and other little charges, right? So that the public can understand it's not just water, because we had to give a credit of 33%, but it was only based on the water line item, and so that's why we presented it
Not
that way.
33% of the
And-
overall.
And then when
Correct.
I was questioned by one of the council members as to why the bill's going up, I said, well, your garbage rate went up, and it's included on there, and there's other fees in there, so you can't just look at it as the water bill. It's a combination of everything, because there is other items that are on the bill.
Mhm.
It's just about educating them, that's all.
Well, anyways, I made a maybe this is a good way to start. I made a presentation to council. If you didn't see it, council didn't know me. It was the first time I got to interact with a lot of them. And so I said, let me, forget all these statistics and stuff. Let's talk about how people, perceive how things work anyways. So you see water and wastewater service, I believe they're the foundation of quality of life and economic vitality, right? And when they adversely impact it, remember, this was coming right off the boil order. Well, and if you ran a business and you had fountains for pop and soda and you had dishwashers and stuff, you know what a boil order means, right? It's the real deal. And so, and that was it. So I wanted to at least recognize that in my opening comments. The other one is, this has been true about, you don't know this, but I ran the largest water company in the state of Ohio. It was a New York Stock Exchange traded company, so, I was on the other side of the municipal world. I've also, as you know, run, as I told you, Arlington and Amarillo, and now I'm in Laredo. So, but I've always felt that the utilities job and our department's job was to be a custodian of somebody else's assets. We don't own them. We shouldn't be profiteering from them. We shouldn't be benefiting other than what we get paid and compensated, right? But we should be a guardian for our residents. They're the owner of the assets. And then the last thing I said to them, and this is out of my book, this is a quote. Everybody's got a definition of sustainability. Mine's a little different. Actually, it's a lot different than most of my engineering colleagues. It's the attraction, development, and retention of in-house intellectual capital. I'm a believer that people make organizations sustainable, not pipes, pumps, motors, plants, booster stations. We all have those. Some of them work, some of them don't work, right? But that's the difference people make. They make things work. And so this is what I said to council. Now, this is what I think gets to your comment, and this is exactly what I showed council. Here's what most of you hear about in these water challenged areas. By the way, I used this at Arlington, Texas also, and in Amarillo, so this isn't new to Laredo. All of those things are wonderful, and they fit right into Sheila's world. The problem is, what happens with that? They all restrict usage. They all could impact, if taken to a degree that's not appropriate, impact quality of life, and they could impact economic viability. And guess what they do? As you run a business and your revenues go down and you have a fixed cost business, what happens? Rates go up. And suddenly I'm a resident getting my city services bill, and my water rates are going up, and I'm getting less water, and I'm getting less quality of life, and I can't go wash my car, and all these other things, but I'm gonna pay a lot more for that same privilege. So, my premise has always been, and this is why my colleagues don't usually, I think we gotta balance the seesaw, right? So what can the utility do to balance the seesaw? Because remember, we're the people getting paid, we're the experts on running the water department, and it's easy for us to impose these things on our customers who pay the bills, but we can do some pipe replacement. You've heard a lot about that, right? I believe it should be strategic. I will tell anybody, we can replace every pipe in this city. We don't know how to run the water plant, we don't know how to run the distribution system, we don't have a backflow program, we'll have problems in the distribution system. AKA boil orders, or something like that. Water quality issues. It doesn't have to be a boil order. Plant optimization. We run the plants. There's an efficient way to run a treatment facility, and there's an inefficient way to run a treatment facility. How often do you wash your filters? How well do you feed your chemicals? All those kind of things. Those all impact water quality, and they impact our cost structure, right? Meter change-out program. That's our cash register. If our meters aren't registering, we aren't billing all the water people are using, they're getting a discount, but their rates are higher because they're only getting billed for 30% of what they're using, so the rate's gotta be higher to make the same revenue requirement. That's what I'm talking about. We could give you this is how this works in real life. And remember, I ran businesses that are in the water business, not just government entities. Leak detection program. We had 3 water plants on Lake Erie. There's no better source of water in the world than the Great Lakes. And we had rainfall in Ohio and Pennsylvania. But we still had leak detection. Every company I've run did all of these things. Not because we didn't have water, but because it's the right way to run a utility if you're the custodian of somebody else's asset. And you don't waste water or chemicals or power or manpower. That's why you look for efficiency. These shouldn't be unique to Laredo or, these are just what we should be doing as professionals in this business. And the last one is the valve operating program. And why do you say that? Well, when there's a main break, which there inevitably will be, we don't want to shut down half the town and take 5 hours doing shutoffs. Water's running, remember? And if we can't shut the valves, water keeps running till we can shut the valves. And by the way, the more valves we gotta shut in the bigger area, the more people that are inconvenienced. Those are our customers. We're looking out for them. We should be doing these things. Every utility in the United States should be doing these things at some level, okay? Many aren't, and we've got some deficiencies here, okay? But that's how you balance this thing out. And I can tell you that one place I was at, we worked on this I was there 6 years. Our lost water went from 15% to 6%. That's 2 billion gallons a year we created in source of supply. Our cost went down by $2 million a year. So, and we didn't ask our people to do all that stuff. We had inclining block rates. We handed out some toilets for a while, and then that kind of went by the way. But if people want to do that, that's fine. But we ought to be doing our part is the message. So philosophically, that's where I'm at. And I can tell you it works because my book actually documents it, but so I'm not making this stuff up. So if you'd ask a question at this meeting, what's different in the utility department today from your last meeting? We're looking at all those kind of things, and there's gonna be activity addressing all those kind of things. Not just a thing that just blew up a month ago, right? The boil order's over. That's fine, but we should learn from it. We had every regulatory entity in the world in here telling us what to do. That's disappointing to me, because we got right people here and we need to be doing the right things, and we should know how to manage our system. But we appreciated their help, and by the way, it was instrumental in allowing us to recover the way we did. So we really appreciate that. So if you're asking me what's going to be different, that's what I would tell you. We're going to work on the things we should be working on. These things will come in. It'll allow you to have, it'll get to the point you're making. That's why I put it up here. It'll help mitigate rate increases, because efficiency funds capital. if you're allowed to take that funding. I will also tell you, I'm a believer that rates should reflect the true cost of running the business. If you don't, you hollow out the utility, and then you have problems, and everybody goes, what happened? Well, it didn't happen this week, didn't happen this month, it happened over the last 20 years, because you either weren't doing the right things, or you weren't spending the money the right way, or you didn't have enough money to do the right things. I don't think in this community right now, anybody wouldn't stand up and say, we want you to do the right thing. And so, to me, that's a very positive situation. Go ahead.
From what I understand here, where it says a valve operation program and including leak detention program, we probably could. Those two, I'm gonna speak on those two here. That gives me a broad mental picture and understanding of how our power is being distributed throughout our country. In fact, more over here in Texas, where you have your transmission lines of power, of energy, right? Where you have transformers and step-up transformers and step-down transformers to redirect power to where it's needed, or if there is a break in the line, you can shut off that transformer so you don't have leakage or interruption. Is that what you more or less what you're saying there?
Here's what I'm saying to you, this is my scribbles from my staff meeting, you'll see this a lot, because I'm a whiteboard person, but think of this, that's a distribution grid.
Right.
For example. And we've got a main break. Here's what I'm talking about. So this is a distribution grid, and we should have lines going and tied in and right. So we got a main break right here, we'll use that. We should have a valve probably, let's call that a valve and that a valve. Well, wouldn't it be great if we knew where these were, we knew they operated, so when we had this break, we go boom, boom, fix the break.
And it won't affect negatively so many people in the community.
That's right. But you know what happens? We got a valve here and a valve here, and we end up shutting off a valve over here, and a valve over here, and a valve up here, and a valve over there, so we shut
Everybody's
the
out.
water off. Everybody's out.
Everybody's
But think of the time it takes to go find those. You know, no one's going, three of them are under concrete or asphalt, tops are busted off, but the valve stems are broke. You know, that's what a valve program is. And so, that to me is a big deal, because it has a big effect on quality of life, our revenues. Remember, when all these people are shut off, there's no water going through the meter, is there?
And there's a lot of businesses there.
And there's a lot of businesses that get impacted. Economic vitality, quality of life, that's the magic. And this isn't hard, by the way, guys.
The problem is personnel. I know Mr. Mora just didn't have the people to run a valve program.
Let me decide that, okay? Not somebody else. Just to be fair. I'm not ringing the bell, we need more people.
Okay.
And I can give you some, I'm not gonna do it, but I can give you some real comparisons that may be eye-opening to you, okay? So let's just leave it that we're gonna work on this stuff, and all that stuff will fall out. Okay? Fair?
Because, if I may, valves can be open and shut remotely. We have the advancement now.
Well, these aren't valves that are open, these are valves in the street that have that lid on it that you run over with your car and it goes clunk clunk.
Okay.
Right? Because they're not raised properly or whatever, but you get my drift. But the point is, those valve boxes get filled with grit and grime and it covers up the head of the valve. What you do is you put a wrench down in there that's got a head on it, and it's a rectangular head, and it goes down on a valve, top of the valve. Well, if it's got 6 feet of grime in it, you can't get down, so you gotta hog it all out to get down to the valve to hope to God when you get on there and you turn it, it works. A lot of times it doesn't. It snaps off because it's never been exercised since they put it in 77 years ago. So this is what you run into, right? And so when I talk about this stuff, this is basic stuff that no one does, or a lot of people don't do. But the really good ones do, because that's the impact. And the problem is, if you're really good at that, no one notices it because the shutoffs are small, the repairs are quick, the overtime's less, the outages are confined, the water loss is less. And so it just falls into the fact, that's what that means, okay?
Two analogies,
Yes.
one is in sports and one is in medicine on my behalf. What you just said right now, a very good umpire at a baseball game, home plate umpire, you won't notice him when he's doing a very good job.
I umpired Class B and AA baseball for 20 years, and I refereed high school and college basketball for 42.
We're on the
That's
same.
exactly right.
And the second one is our body. The anatomy of our body is we have valves. When our valves are not working well, we are not well.
Heart valves would be an example, right?
And our circulatory system has a lots of valves, backflow valves, all over.
So anyways, that's the stuff we're talking about. So if I had to give you some notes, we'll keep talking about this stuff, but I'll put little things in to hit the high points you're talking about, okay? That you just told me. And if things come up between now and then, send me a note. In Arlington, Texas, my email and my cell phone number were on our website. I don't know where it is here, it doesn't matter. You can get it to Nancy or somebody and they'll get the information to me. Something comes up between now and our next meeting, you go, hey, what the heck, what's going on here? You're welcome to, hey Buzz, what's going on? That type of thing, okay? But I wanna make this meeting, if we're gonna have it, because I'm not a meetings person, I'm a go do things person. But if we're gonna have a meeting, I don't wanna waste your time, and I wanna address the issues that are relevant to you, so you can do whatever you need to do for the person you're representing, I guess is a way to say it. And I don't believe in giving you a lot of jargon. This stuff is pretty boilerplate stuff, and that's why I gave it to council. And I want everybody to start understanding that, including our organization, because it's a matter of prioritizing things. But I'm not gonna raise the we don't have people thing yet, but let me figure that out. Okay? Yes, sir.
Even with all that, which is, I think it's a different approach that city leadership is taking to provide water services for the city of Laredo taxpayers, we still need water.
Well,
We don't have water.
but I would argue that we're part of the solution when we're using the water we have. You follow? It's easy to go out and drill a well, if you got a well field. But my point of this isn't the end all. The utility should be part of the solution. Remember, all the water we're wasting is water we're taking out of the river that we shouldn't be taking out of the river and eating up our capacity, right?
Take a proactive approach and make sure.
If, for example,
If you-
if we're flushing and we're flushing more than we should be flushing, we're using water. If we're not good at what we're doing, we're exacerbating the problem and you're paying us to do it. I find that something we should be in a position to go to our residents, and again, this is a person and say, listen, we're doing the best we can as your custodian of your assets. And we're doing all the things that one would deem to be appropriate to do that. Now, if I go ask you to raise rates, it's because, here's the credibility thing. The credibility is, we can demonstrate we're doing a good job with the money you're giving us, and we need more money. That's a better sell than, you know what, we don't have a valve program, we don't have any leak detection, our meters are half working, half aren't working, our plants aren't doing anything, and we're not replacing any water lines, and we want the rates to go up.
And the rates did just go up.
Right.
Council
Well-
approved for the water rates to go up, and
That's
then
right.
boom, the boil water notice, so a lot of, now I'm not gonna say a lot, many Americans were upset. And, it is a hard sell, but from what I'm understanding here, Mr. Fishkin, I'm seeing this as the city of Laredo is doing their part. Now, the taxpayer, the consumer has to do their part. Telling them with a smile.
No, folks, I had to go to regulatory commissions for rates for a lot of my career, and now you go to city councils. To me, there's no difference. If you build a lot of credibility, people stand behind you. If you have a good story and you can demonstrate you're a good custodian of their asset, they're probably gonna give you the money you need to do it. Because quite frankly, costs go up. chemical prices go up, labor goes up, those things go up. You guys are in the business world. I lived in the business world. Utilities are no different. The problem for utilities is we just can't pick our customers. We can't pick, unless the city's engaged, how many people we're gonna serve. You know, expansion costs money. You better be making sure development's paying for itself, or you're just gonna burden the existing. Remember, every time a house comes on in this system, they take away some of our storage capacity, some of our treatment capacity, some of our piping capacity. And if there's not a reasonable way to allocate that cost to that new development, guess who's paying the bill? The existing. They paid for what you got, and they're gonna pay for the new stuff. So there's balances in all this stuff. This is a business. And you can piece and part, you know, tear the stuff apart under different ways. But that, anyways, that's the message. And so rates are rates, costs are costs. All of us buy things. We hope that when we have somebody that's managing our business, well, if you owned the business and you had some affiliates, you'd hope to God that the person running the affiliate's running the affiliate efficiently, right? And then they said, hey, we need more money, or we gotta charge more. You go, okay, that's the cost of doing business, and we understand that. It's the waste and the incompetence and the lack of detail and lack of energy is what irritates people and should irritate them. That's my belief. That's how we're gonna approach things from this utilities aspect, at least as long as I'm here. And you'll start seeing some of that, quite frankly. Angie and Sheila and them and Lauren get to see some of that every day. But, and it's new, and it's a little different, but I think they'll find it pretty rewarding, quite frankly. And I know it works because I've done it in real life. This isn't some novel I wrote sitting on a beach somewhere. Okay. Any other questions or any other ideas or feedback? Because I value that. I appreciate you bringing up the rate thing and people and that. Because again, if I'm going to do this and devote the time, and you're going to devote the time, I want to make it worth your while.
I have a question. What's the schedule on the chlorine burn? When is that supposed to be done?
That was a total of 60 days, so I think
We're like, like
3
December,
weeks. And we will be
December.
treating free residual chlorine for 60 days. We will then go back combined.
so from when it started, it's 60 days.
okay,
So you're looking at mid-December maybe?
great. Okay, good to
It's
know.
not fun, believe me.
Well, it's great. By the way, I'll give you a little history. I've been in this business since 1970. And I always tell everybody, when I was a rookie in this business, I was sitting in a excavation in December with a little Bunsen burner and a bunch of lead, putting fixing a lead joint in the pipe. That's how far we've come, right?
Yeah.
It's a true story. We used to go in and, you'd have joint leaks. The joint would crack. So you'd cut it out, and then you had to put oakum, was what they call it. You stuff it in there. If you can imagine in the joint, we didn't have slip joints with rubbers. And you put it in there, and you melt the lead, and you put the lead in. You had this hammer, and you tapped it in. It's just like sweating a piece of pipe, only you did it that way.
So you still have that at Jefferson, just so you know that?
Okay, that's
Like,
okay.
like, what was it, March? No, January? I think it was January. Got a problem with the check valve. It slammed so hard it moved the pipe. They excavated it, and we were all just looking at it because we had never seen it. I mean, that pipe must be 70 years old. The guys were like, that's lead.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Lead
the way,
joint.
yeah, so we literally had to excavate all the raw just to find out. And like you said, there were valves that were hidden, that hadn't been worked in 50 years. And, so it was like a spaghetti stream down there. And, but
Go ahead.
yeah, but that whole lead thing, we had to literally put it out. We didn't have anybody that knew how to put it back in.
That's right.
So-
And by the way, we don't want you to, right?
We're all looking at it like,
What is that?
yeah.
I hear you.
We had to
I used to
replace all that.
That's what happens when you're old, right? But my point to your thing about chlorine, every system sold just fed chlorine for years. Then we got into THMs and carcinogens and, as regulation rolls on, now we're doing combined with ammonia, and of course in Arlington, we were using ozone. You hear the discussion of chlorine dioxide here. Those are other, what I'll call subsidiary disinfectant processes. We'll still use chlorine and ammonia if we go to chlorine dioxide, but we do, it's all about dealing with the organics, right? And when chlorine combines with the organics, that's what it's there. And I'll give you a doctor's analogy, because the mayor of Arlington, when I got there, was head of the medical center in town. He was head of physicians. So we had a couple bad samples. Sound familiar? So he called me in and said, "Hey, Buzz," because the mayor gets a notice of that when you have one. He said, "Hey, Buzz, what's going on here?" And I said, Mr. Mayor Cluck, I said, think of it this way. I said, when we get a bad sample, not an E. coli sample, that's a different, I'll explain that. When we get a bad sample, we're looking for coliform bacteria. That's an indicator bacteria, right? And so it indicates there might be something there. So I said, consider that like a tumor, because I ran a hospital for a while too, and I said, if you get a tumor, the doctor doesn't cut your leg off because you got a tumor. They check and see whether it's malignant or not and see what the right treatment technique is, right? When we get a bad coliform indicator sample, we do retesting, and then we find out how bad it is or what's really going on here. A lot of times it's a sampling error. It may just be isolated. There's maybe high background, but there's no real contaminant. So we do that, and so those things happen from time to time. Anyways, in Arlington, when I got there, we had a highly regarded system, on and on it goes, and so, but we would get 3 or 4 a month of these bad samples, and then we'd retest and it'd be fine. So, and by the way, you're allowed to have, I think it's 4 or 5% bad samples. So we collect 150, we could have 8 bad samples and we're still in compliance, everything's okay. But I explained that to the mayor, and then of course I went back to my plant manager and I said, let me help you. The answer is 0. And the analogy I gave my staff was, if an airline was 99.9% effective, we'd have 3 crashes a day. I don't think anybody think that was a good deal. Well, we're running a healthcare system here, it's called the water company, and people drink this stuff. It's not the electric company, where if we put a jolt in your line and blow your refrigerator up, we just hand you a check and say, go get a new refrigerator. We don't do that for kidneys and all this other stuff, right? So people count on us, and our product's gotta be 100% right 100% of the time. And I said, so the answer for us is not 3 or 5 is okay, because it is okay regulatory wise. The answer is 0. And so we got to 0. But my point was, these things need to be explained, because people don't know this and they just get going with stuff. And it's why I think you guys can be very valuable. See, I love customer interaction and retirees. I always had a retiree lunch and stuff, because you're important in the community. Somebody's come up and say, hey, you're on that water advisory committee. What the hell's going on down there? Pardon my French. But they will, and you're credible. And if you know, you guys can be very valuable to this city and this utility department, in my humble opinion. So I'll put the time in, but I want to be responsive to the stuff. If you're hearing stuff, let me know. If there's something you want to know, let me know. Because again, I want to use this hour, or whatever it is, I don't care how long it takes, to make sure that we're being responsive to what you need to be a spokesman and to be informed about what's going on, to inform others. Okay, it's not just the councilman. Other people are going to ask you a question about this boil order, or about this new guy we got, or whatever the heck it is. That's okay with me, right? Does it make sense? Okay. Does that answer your question about chlorine? So we did free chlorine. It's great. It's the greatest thing going. But because it caused some other things where it interacts with organics and creates other compounds, which we've now deemed to be potentially cancerous, now we got to change our disinfection process, right? It's our immune system.
Yeah.
And we've had to change our immune system, and that's created other issues. Nitrification, it's not as strong a disinfectant, so we don't get as good a kill because it's not straight chlorine. And so now you look at, as I said, in Arlington we used ozone, and then we did chloramines. You're just using chloramines right now. That should be okay. It may need a little more flushing, it may need a little more monitoring, But if we can add another polish that makes sense, and I'm looking into that right now, whether that makes sense or not, and we'll do some scrutiny, because I've been asked to go look at every contract that we're, for all the right reasons, and I'm happy to do that, because I have the expertise to do that. So we're exploring that stuff. So if somebody asks you about chlorine dioxide, the answer is, council approved it, it's in my arms. I've been asked by the city manager and Steve, who I work for, hey, look at this and tell us what you think, and I'll tell you exactly what we're doing. I've told my plant manager, you call these guys from these cities, because I looked and I found 5 similar sized cities in Texas that use chlorine dioxide. Call their plant manager, ask them what the deal is, ask them how it's working. And then I'll call the director, because I know all the directors in the state, right? Because I used to be a director of a major city in Texas. And then we'll find out what the practical application and challenges are, because I can always look at the chemistry. And so then I'll make a recommendation on what we do or don't do. And the other thing it'll do for my plant manager, I said it'll build your network. You need to be talking to other people. Laredo's not the only place in the world. And there's a lot of other expertise and people out there, and we may need them and they may need us someday. So that's how we're approaching chlorine dioxide as we speak, okay? And that won't take forever. In fact, I expect Bubba to give me a report next week, and then we'll make our comment back. So again, what you hear, what's concerns you, that's what I need to know if I can. And I'll be happy to address it. And I don't have to wait for a meeting to do it. If something comes up and you call me and say, hey Buzz, this is a big issue, I'll get the response and I'll get it to all of you, so you have it, okay? We just happen to have a meeting scheduled. But if this works right, I want this thing to be interactive, because I value your input and I value your insights, and I want to know what's going on, because I've already told Sheila, the utilities I run, we're constantly engaged with the community, okay? I always told my PR people, I want you to have at least 12 announcements a year in our pocket, and then as things come up, we'll add more and people will communicate with us. I think a museum's a fantastic place. We're gonna open the museum up, we're gonna make it, it's spotless, it shines, and I wanna make it vital and make it usable. So we're gonna incorporate that into how we do things also. So if you mentioned the museum, I think it's fantastic. But it needs somebody to make it relevant, right? We're gonna make it relevant as part of our community outreach campaign. We're gonna be talking to our residents. One of the things we're gonna ask them, hey, if you see somebody on a fire hydrant, you call us. Be our eyes and ears. It's our utility system, not Buzz's, not Angie's, it's ours. I mean, so we're gonna start, you're gonna start seeing some of that, and you'll know why it wasn't just coincidence. And it's not because we had a boil order. I don't know if I ever had one in Arlington in 6 years, but we could have. And if it was for the right reason, then it's for the right reason. So I'm not gonna sit here and tell you there'll never be another boil order. Even if we replaced every pipe and did everything as good as we can, sometimes they're just unavoidable. You have a main break and you have a major outage or something, who knows? But we're gonna do everything we can to do our part to make those things not happen. So when it does happen, no one gets overly energized.
Yeah, and I think that's the main issue, because cities have boil water notices all the time. But
That's right.
I think there's a lack of trust, I guess, of what's going on, why is it happening again? I think if there's, City of Austin has a boil water notice, but it's because they lost pressure and they just were required to report it.
And it's a precautionary
And it was
thing.
there for a day.
Right.
Like, no one even bats an eye.
Right.
But when you have one that lasts 11 days or however long it lasted.
I mean, you had something happen here I've never seen in my entire career. A whole city for weeks. That's remarkable. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
And I've already said this to some other people. And in fact, our colleagues at TCEQ said, we've never seen anything like this. So, but anyways, all we can do, in my mind, and to me, it's an exciting opportunity. For most people, they say, come back to the golf course, right? But I think.
I got a meeting, I gotta get going.
Okay, great, nice to have you.
I have to tear out of here too. I have an appointment with pain management at 2 o'clock.
Okay. What time is it?
It's 107.
Oh, okay, so we're close on time.
I'd like to share with the committee that the city of Laredo has been purging water at the location of 3400 block of Guadalupe. I live in southeast Laredo, and some of that water flows all the way down to the Colonia Villa del Sol. The water finds its way down to 2 blocks from my house. So the city of Laredo is taking some measures to purge the system. And I'm gonna make a comment about you, Mr.
Pishker.
P-I-S-H.
P-I-S-H. Yes.
K-U-R.
Right, Pishker. It's actually spelled the way it's, or it's pronounced the way it's spelled, but there's too many S's and K's and H's in it. It's just confusing.
I
Call me
would like to
Bud.
make a comment with you in all due respect. I hope I won't offend you. If I do offend you, please let me know.
Mhm.
I see you, and I'm not talking about anything, personally, I see you as Lee Iacocca coming to fix Chrysler Dodge Plymouth.
Why would I consider that a criticism?
What was that?
I said, why would I consider that a criticism? I actually have a Lee Iacocca article I cut out. He said, what did he say? He said, lead, follow, or get out of the way. That was Lee
Well,
Iacocca.
that's the way I see you, because I've done some shallow, well, I'm not gonna say shallow research, but I've done some research on Lee Iacocca and Tesla and other fine individuals that have contributed positively to humanity in general.
Mhm.
You know, if it wasn't for Tesla, we wouldn't have this nice steady flow of light here.
That's correct. That's where the name comes from for Musk's vehicle.
Stole it.
Electric vehicle.
Well,
Well, no, I'm saying that's the origin, right?
Yeah, but as used it from Tesla, he's not here to defend himself, but anyway, Mr. Musk, you know, he can do just about anything he wants right now. Later on, year 2025, if we're still here, we're gonna have some changes in our nation. Now, I don't think they're gonna be very positive in regards to the EPA, TCEQ. We're gonna have people that don't believe in science and clean water or anything like that, so
Yeah.
you'll have your job cut out for you, because these people, they don't believe in having clean air or water or anything like that. To me, I see the Khmer Rouge coming into our nation next year. Hopefully, it's not as bad as that, but hopefully we can win in 2026 and bring some reason to
Well,
Congress.
that's your paid political announcement, that's not,
But anyway, that I see you repeat Lee Iacocca, because I think he did wonders for Dodge and Chrysler back in the 70s, and he brought them back from the dead.
he did.
Con permiso, everybody. We're not dead. Qué bueno.
Well, thank you.
What
for-
do you need to, I guess you wanna adjourn the meeting?
Oh, I'm not.
I have to get out of here.
Yeah, can I get a motion for adjournment?
I'll make a motion.
Second. All those in favor say aye, thank you.